77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I am here today to sign an executive directive, and I just want to point out the irony for a minute, that there is a need for me to have an executive directive to help our city understand how to protect itself from our federal government. Just let that sink in for a minute. What we have seen here over the last now going on 6 weeks of raids that pop up and we never know exactly when and where they're going to happen. We've seen them in the general region. I'm sure many people saw Camarillo yesterday and what broke out there. We saw MacArthur Park earlier this week, which I think now, after all assessments, it is viewed as just a display of force, just to put the city in its place, to say we are the federal government, we can roll out troops whenever we choose. So the executive directive that I will be signing in a few minutes is to help the city family, to help the city workforce, to help the city departments and all of the general managers essentially develop preparedness plans that have specific protocols and that help city workers know how to address immigration officials should they approach a city department. How we abide by the law, but we understand what our rights are as city employees, how we can provide protection for immigrants who might be attending a city event or at a city property, but we stay within the law.
There is nothing about staying in the law that Karen Bass or the Democrat Party in California understands. The entire state stands against the law, period. Welcome, my friends, to the Friday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, the fastest hour in American media. That today, of course, an executive directive from LA's governing mayor, Karen Bass, who this borders on insanity. What they are doing. Now, yesterday, folks, this raid in California has upset the entire party, and for good reason. Their donors are being raided, and that's the bottom line of it. Their donors, and she asked you, think about this. Think about the irony. Think about this. Think about that. The federal government is actually acting like a federal government. They're showing we can send troops. Yes, they can. They're the federal government. You are not the federal government. And the federal government has laws which California has stuck their middle finger up to America for the last 30 years, and nobody until now has dared to say, no, this is not how things work. You as a state do not have the authority to create a law unto yourself that violates federal laws, and these people are beside themselves. About 200 arrested in chaotic immigration raid at cannabis farm. One worker gravely injured in a fall. This is from the LA Times today. Federal immigration agents carried out immigration sweeps in 2 Southern California cannabis farms on Thursday, arresting about 200 suspected undocumented immigrants and prompting a heated standoff between authority and hundreds of protesters in Ventura County. And you see the images of these people throwing bricks, throwing boulder-like rocks at trucks, at the immigration officials. And all of them weren't arrested. And what needs to happen in some people's view, mine included, is there need to be enough overwhelming force brought to these situations that when these protesters want to rise up and start throwing things at federal agents, that they are promptly and swiftly handcuffed and put in freaking jail. Enough of this already. Videos shared on social media showed nearly a dozen agents using so-called less lethal ammunition on a crowd that had gathered near Glass House Farms, a large licensed cannabis greenhouse in Camarillo. Meanwhile, 35 miles up the coast in Carpentiera, federal agents entered another Glass House Farms growing site. Same company, a smaller crowd gathered there. The United Farm Workers Union said it told one worker fell several stories from a greenhouse. And that person was taken from the farm in an ambulance, suffered catastrophic injuries, not expected to survive. And that is just terrible. But, it would all be unnecessary if people were following the law. Now, Karen Bass made that announcement, and then after she signed the document, Karen Bass also had this to say.
I just finished signing an executive directive, which essentially puts all city departments and city leadership on notice to protect Angelenos, essentially from the federal government. Just think about that for a minute. We want to make sure that our city departments are prepared in case ICE shows up at their door. How are they to respond? We want to make sure, of course, that they abide by the law, but we want them to know their rights, which means that ICE can't come barreling into the library just randomly looking for people. They have to have a specific warrant, and if they don't, then they can't come in. We also are filing a Freedom of Information Act because we want to know who are these masked men and why are they masked in the first place? Why can't they show identification? Why are they driving in unmarked cars with tinted windows and no license plate? Why do they jump out of the cars armed? And why are they snatching people off the street? All of this needs to stop. But I just want to end with this. How ironic is it that I signed an executive directive to protect Angelenos from our federal government?
Yeah, well, the federal government needs to be protected from your illegal Angelenos, is the story. Okay? And how dare this woman? She's either a complete 100% jackass that doesn't understand exactly what's going on here, or she's trying to feign ignorance, one or the other. I will give her, because I don't want to call her a jackass. I don't want to think that about her. I want to think that this woman has more intelligence than what she's saying. The reason, of course, that these people are masked is exactly what you see on the streets of California. Californians, many of them liberals, encouraged by their political officials, encouraged by people who advocate breaking American law, have been trying to assault these agents of the law. They have been trying to unmask them, literally meaning find out what their names are so that they can then intimidate their families, intimidate them. And perhaps, as you will hear from even some people, what people want to do is actually kill ICE agents, and they are advocating that. So, of course, they are protecting their identities. They have to, against these rabid protectors of everything illegal, including child trafficking. Not one word from that feckless governor out there, Gavin Newsom. Not one word from Karen Bass about the children that are working on these cannabis farms. And people don't know whether they have been. Yes, there were 8 unaccompanied minors, at least 8, found on these farms yesterday. At least 8. There may be more. And they don't know where these kids came from. They're trying to track them down. They were unaccompanied, meaning somehow or another they had been contracted or employed at this farm. We don't know whether they're being paid or not, whether they are being put into servitude, slavery, on behest, and somehow or another the business owners of this farm, which had 2 locations, think this is okay. apparently. And I don't know the full story yet. We're waiting to see as it unfolds. But we do know unaccompanied minors were found there. Here's what we also know. We know that this farm, the owners of this company, are donors of Gavin Newsom. $10,000 donation. We know that. We know that there have been other Democrats in California that they have donated to. So part of their donor base is running a shop that has undocumented children in it. And when the federal government comes in and says, we are raiding this place, there are 200 undocumented people here, that's not an accident. This is a business strategy. There are 200 undocumented people here, and then, on top of that, there are children here who are here with no trace of who their parentage is, how they got in this country, what they're being, we don't know. But you don't hear not one of these Democrats that are in a position of power denouncing what their donor is doing to make money, earning money on the back of undocumented children, and running a business with the labor force of illegal aliens. And yet she has the audacity, the nerve, to continually, day after day after day after day, demonize the people who are risking their lives to enforce the law of this nation. She and that governor out there who wants to be president of the United States. I will say this. The day that Gavin Newsom is ever elected the president of these United States is a day that you can just wave the white flag of surrender as to the United States and the rule of law. Because this man doesn't deserve to ever set foot in the White House. He doesn't deserve, in terms of him being a character that understands the nature of law, to be even the governor of the great state, the once great state of California that he runs. Everything about Gavin Newsom has been failure after failure with promotion. He promised over 30 years ago to fix 20 years ago, whatever it was, to fix the homeless problem in California, in San Francisco. It's a bigger mess now than when he set foot in there. And now the mess that he created in San Francisco has spread all over the state of California. And yet this man runs around and makes these with his finely coiffed hair, making these speeches that make it sound like he's supporting some great civil rights revolution. The man is an absolute disgrace and fraud to this entire country. And Karen Bass, I want to give her some credit, but it's hard these days for her to make these statements where she sounds like a complete 100% jackass. Where are these masked men? This is not some Hollywood production. These men and women that are serving in the federal government are doing so in the face of an entire political party that wants to see them dead, hurt, or injured, or destroyed, while they are protecting the laws of this nation. It is a disgrace. And it is also a disgrace that members of the so-called churches out there are not even siding for people obeying the law. It is disgraceful what is happening in California. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media, coming back. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This, my friends, is what ICE agents, what federal officers of these United States of America are up against. And this is being fomented by Democrat Party. These are being fomented. These kind of people are being fomented and being aggrandized by people of the Democrat Party.
So, did you guys hear about the ICE agents that finally bit off more than they can chew? And some good American patriots showed up and started putting them in the dirt. And I mean actually in the dirt. One patriot was deleted. One ICE agent was wounded in the neck. I hope God has wrath upon him. But if you want to start dressing like a terrorist, and you want to stop identifying yourself as a law enforcement agency, then we're going to treat you like a foreign terrorist. We're going to shoot you. We're going to wipe the floor with you.
This is and this is just one example, people. I could just play these things all day long. This is what elected Democrats, like the governor of California, like the mayor of Los Angeles, like the mayors of some of these other blue cities, like elected members of Congress. This is what they are doing to their rabid, hateful base. They are turning the kooks among them, the fringest of the fringe among them, into potential killers that feel so emboldened that they can go on social media and the videos. These people some of them aren't even hiding their face. Some of them do. But they are trying to foment murder of federal agents who are simply following the laws and doing what they want to do to help protect Americans. Very quickly, do you have that one from Ontario, California, The Office? Some ICE was making a raid in Ontario, California.
Treat ICE agents like your grandfather would have treated the Nazis. Every ICE agent, every Border Patrol agent, they are the modern day
Hold on,
Gestapo.
Folks. Stop this. We're going to play all of this one. We'll be back, my friends. James Golden, Snerdley. Keep it right here. What is happening in this country, folks, we are in a crisis moment. You better believe it.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Treat ICE agents like your grandfather would have treated the Nazis. Every ICE agent, every Border Patrol agent, they are the modern day Gestapo. They are the modern day SS. They are the secret police. If you know who one of them is, then let everybody know. Let us know where exactly they are. Let us know who their family is. Because if they're really proud of what they do, then they won't mind all of that happening.
And that is why, my friends, they have to wear masks, because this is what Democrats are fomenting out here. James Golden, Snerdley with you here, fastest hour in American media. Okay, listen. Newsom's donor cannabis farm under federal investigation for child labor violations. 9 unaccompanied children rescued as protesters clash with authorities at Glass House Farm facilities. The president of Glass House Farms, the cannabis farm that federal immigration officials raided in California despite protest, has donated thousands to Democrats in California. So they hire basically slave labor, these kids that should not even be working on a cannabis farm of all things, donate money to Democrats. And what do Democrats do? Urge people to hurt, to protest, to go out in the streets, the ICE agents who are trying to enforce the law. Not one of these Democrats has stood up and said we need to get to the bottom of why children are working on these farms and they're undocumented. How does this happen in America? No, these people will call you all kind of names. These Democrats. If you say stop mutilating children, stop them from having irreparable surgeries that could harm them for the rest of their lives before they are too mature to consent to it, they call you all kind of names. They are in favor of mutilation of children. If you say We shouldn't be letting these unaccompanied minors come in through open borders. They call you a xenophobe, a racist. When you find undocumented children working on the farms, out in the fields, like slaves, Democrats don't even acknowledge it. They instead want to go on a rampage, and the mayor of L.A. comes out and starts whining and moaning about the federal government enforcing the law as if they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be enforcing the law against these sort of outrages. Cut 4. Carlos, this is what this woman that runs L.A. had to say also.
I just finished signing an executive directive, which essentially puts all city departments and city leadership on notice to protect Angelenos, essentially from the federal government. Just think about that for a minute. We want to make sure that our city departments are prepared in case ICE shows up at their door. How are they to respond? We want to make sure, of course, that they abide by the law, but we want them to know their rights, which means that ICE can't come barreling into the library just randomly looking for people. They have to have a specific warrant, and if they don't, then they can't come in. We also are filing a Freedom of Information Act because we want to know who are these masked men and why are they masked in the first place? Why can't they show identification? Why are they driving in unmarked cars with tinted windows and no license plate? Why do they jump out of the cars armed? And why are they snatching people off the street? All of this needs to stop. But I just want to end with this. How ironic is it that I signed an executive directive to protect Angelenos from our federal government?
How ironic is it that I'm signing a piece of legislation to protect people here illegally from the federal government trying to enforce the law of the nation? Tom Homan was asked about this case in Camarillo. That's cut 8, and this is what Tom Homan had to say.
Who was killed that day, still looking for answers. But we begin with Matt Finn. He's live with more on the growing violence against ICE. Matt, good evening.
Trace, good evening. 2 federal sources tell Fox tonight that hundreds of people have been taken into custody during an hours-long immigration sweep at 2 farming locations in Carpinteria and Camarillo, California. Tear gas and smoke bombs were launched into the crowds of protesters, clashing with immigration agents. Some people were transported to the hospital. Others were taken into custody for interfering with federal officers. Protesters could be seen throwing rocks at this black SUV. And tonight, sources tell Fox the feds are investigating the possibility of an active shooter at the scene. Investigators searched for shell casings and are using facial recognition to identify the suspect.
It strikes me unbelievable that the Democrats are not on board. When you look at this raid, there were 10 juveniles that were illegally brought across the border. You and I covered this under the Biden administration. I was down in Texas. We encountered 8, 10-year-old, 12-year-olds coming across with just a name and an address and a phone number on their necks, the cartel ruthlessly sending them across. And yet now we know that 10 of them, 8 of which were unaccompanied minors working illegally in a marijuana farm, and your agents go in and rescue them essentially, and yet there is violent resistance to that. Does that upset you?
It certainly upsets me, and like I said, you know, the work men and women of ICE are doing is incredible. Look, we're looking for over 300,000 missing children. We've already found 10,000. Have you heard that anywhere? No, the media is simply not covering it. And look, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Arresting public safety threats and national security threats, everybody be all the same page on that. Rescuing children, I mean, it should be a nonpartisan issue. Everybody should be in lockstep on that, but they're not. The media's lying. The Democrats they don't want President Trump to be successful. I got news for them. We are being successful. Every illegal alien public safety threat we arrest makes this country safer. Every national security threat we take off the street and deport makes us safer. And we're rescuing thousands of children. The lives saved every day by ICE, the lives saved every day by Border Patrol, are in the hundreds. So it's the only thing I can think of, Griff, if they hate President Trump more than they love their community, they hate President Trump more than they want, safe communities. And there's just no other excuse why this is not, why this has become a partisan issue to take public safety threats off the street.
Now, Democrats showed up as I guess part of their donor base was being what they would consider to be attacked. The people that have undocumented children working in the fields. And Democrat Representative Julia Brownlee was asked, and then Oxnard Mayor Louis MacArthur also asked about these raids. Let's see whether either one of these, shall we? I already know the answer, mentions these undocumented minors that were found, over 200 or close to 200 illegal aliens working at a place where Democrats are rewarded with donations from this particular business. Yet they have undocumented kids working there. Let's see whether any of these two Democrats, Representative Julia Brownlee and Oxnard Mayor Louis MacArthur, mentions anything about these children.
What we've really seen here is horrific. It shouldn't be this way. It is vulgar. It's un-American. This is not what we are about here.
I've talked about these operations before, how I personally feel they're unjust, unwarranted, and just unnecessary, and it's creating a lot of distress in our communities. I'm hearing that single women are being arrested, leaving behind 3-4 kids at home. And how do we reunify that family? And this is just completely unnecessary, and it's unwarranted, and I'm making sure that emergency personnel are on standby, ready to provide services should there need be. And I'm also working with our governor's office and our state attorney general's office to see if we can explore legal avenues to just stop these operations from occurring.
Yeah, these are Democrats. Not a word about, let's stop these operations from occurring. In other words, let's leave the children, these children that we supposedly care about, these brown children, could they be? Let's leave them working in the fields, undocumented. Let's stop the raids on people that are breaking the law. By the way, they donate to our party. And then you have this woman, this Representative Julia Brownlee. This is vulgar. What is vulgar is your entire premise as a Democrat to allow this illegality to continue in this state unabated, no matter who it hurts. What's vulgar is the quest for power that Democrats have because they derive their political power from the expansion of illegal immigration, and they are diametrically opposed to anybody curtailing their party power, whether it be by going into the businesses of their donors, whether it be the agents of the federal government trying to enforce federal law. It affects Democrat power, and that's what is beyond this. 15. Let's hear from well-known squad member Ilhan Omar.
This district is home to one of the youngest constituents in the country.
Talking about her.
It includes so many higher ed institutions, including the University of Minnesota. This bill tells them you are on your own. And for what? To hand over $150 billion to immigration enforcement, $45 billion for ICE detentions, more than 13 times their current budget. We're already seeing reports of new detention centers like the Alligator Alcatraz being built in Florida.
I tell you, so you have that on one hand. Then on the other hand, you have this whole thing with the big, beautiful bill. My friends, liberals are upset at the big, beautiful bill. We're going to have more on this tomorrow because I can't get it all in today, but I don't want to leave without this. We played this near the end of the show yesterday. I want to just give it a full hearing. Cut number 27. I want you to listen carefully to what is also happening at the same time. Democrats are refusing to obey federal law, who are riling up their people to try to kill and dox ICE agents because that's what they're stated. Some of these people, that's what they say they want to do. Yet you have people like Karen Bass wondering, we don't understand. Why are they wearing masks? Why are they wearing masks? While the people that they have riled up are threatening to kill these ICE agents. Why aren't they wearing masks? And then on the other hand, you have some of these other liberals out here. 27.
I'm telling you all, right?
I just got out of a meeting with my DHS caseworker, and she is threatening me once again to take everything unless I go and get a job. I explained to her I can't go and get a job. Actually, it's not even that I can't. It's that I do not want to. I have been on welfare for 13 years. 13 years I have been on Section 8, so I haven't had to pay rent. Okay? Food stamps, cash assistance, disability. I don't even know how a job works. Okay? I don't want to work. That is the whole point. I don't want to work. I told her she is not going to take my food stamps. She is not going to take my Section 8. And I'm still not going to work. You trying to get me to work and me refusing is a you problem. It's not a me problem. I will continue to sit at home on my ass while the taxpayers work and support me and my children. Because if you are in America and you pay taxes, that is your responsibility. So, no, sweetheart, I'm not going to work. Thank you.
Yep, my friends. That's the state of where we are today. Let's take a break here, come back, see what we have time left to do. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media continues.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Is a 74-year-old Trump supporter who lives in Palo Alto. He casually went about his business today, still sporting the red MAGA hat that prompted a loud confrontation with a woman at a Palo Alto Starbucks 2 days ago.
This crazy woman came over, started raving at me. She turned to the rest of Starbucks. Hey, everybody, here's this racist here. He's a Nazi and so forth.
The woman, Rebecca Parker Mankey, then began taking photos and posting about it on her Facebook, saying she was going to shame him, get him fired. Kichter says she left, then came back and tried to rile the Starbucks crowd once more. In fact, the opposite happened. People started harassing Parker Mankey's family and her employer, Griffin Stringed Instruments, where she worked as an accountant. The store owner decided to fire her after he read her Facebook posts.
It's just not consistent with our values.
No one answered the door at Parker Mankey's home.
She didn't want to discuss the issues with me. She wanted just to scream about Nazis and so on.
Victor wears a yarmulke underneath his MAGA hat. He is Jewish, and so to him, being called a Nazi is hurtful.
Yeah. Little Bon Jovi takes us out. Okay, for those of you who missed the program yesterday, and there's a reason, even though there are very good reasons that people have for missing, like moving out of their beloved house into another. I totally get that. But you may have missed something. And we don't have time to play the full thing. We only have time for a little bit. So I will do a reprise on this tomorrow. But this is the EPA Administrator, Lee
Concerned
Zeldin.
Americans have urgent and important questions about geoengineering and contrails. The American public deserves and expects honesty and transparency from their government when seeking answers. But for years, people who asked questions in good faith were dismissed, even vilified by the media and their own government. That era is over. The Trump EPA is committed to total transparency. As a result, I tasked my team at EPA to compile a list of everything we know about contrails and geoengineering.
That's enough. We'll deal with the rest of it tomorrow. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is true. The EPA, director of the EPA, is now promising the complete skinny We also yesterday played the guy that runs a company called Rainmaker that does cloud seeding. They were busy in Texas 2 days before the flash floods. They are not responsible for the flash floods, at least anybody think that's where I'm going. That's not where I'm going with this. But he had quite the amazing answer, so we may just do a rehash of that tomorrow. God willing, we're all here. In the meantime, of course, I still, my friends, am hot under, well, I don't have a collar on right now, but I'm hot under the shirt over this business that has taken place today. Can you imagine if 9 undocumented children were found working for a Republican company, that donates to Republicans? Can you imagine the hysteria? May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, families and your loved ones. God willing, back tomorrow for the Saturday Morning Vibe, 7 a.m. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.